Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? St. Paul says in his letter to the Corinthians. Since the beginning of our faith, we have constantly reinforced the idea that we no longer have to fear death. The great symbol of our faith is of Jesus, our founder, as he dies in painful humiliation on the cross. We look toward the next life with hope, a hope described by the author of Revelations in our first reading. After this, I had a vision of a great multitude which no one can count, from every nation, race, people, and tongue. They stood before the throne and before the Lamb. They cried out in a loud voice, "Salvation comes from our God, who is seated on the throne, and from the Lamb." But what gives us this confidence, this faith that we could indeed be saved and welcomed into the heavenly kingdom? John answers that in his letter when he writes, "See what love the Father has bestowed on us, that we may be called the children of God, yet so we are." And Jesus gives us the foundation of how we should live as children of God in the Beatitudes. And each and every one of those Beatitudes make up what it means to be a follower of Christ. If we truly follow Christ, we will be poor in spirit, meek, merciful, clean of heart, and peacemakers. But the virtues that we can control are mixed in with the Beatitudes that we can't control. Christ tells us that we will also mourn. We will hunger and thirst for righteousness. We will be persecuted for the sake of righteousness. And we will be insulted and persecuted and have every kind of evil uttered against us falsely because of Christ. We cannot live in a fallen world according to those virtues without encountering the resistance and the friction that Jesus predicts. And this message is a big part of the reminder that the church is promoting this time of year, with these 3 days: yesterday, All Hallows Eve; today, All Saints' Day; and tomorrow, All Souls' Day. In Latin, we call this a memento mori, a reminder of death. And it is like what we say on Ash Wednesday when we receive our ashes: "Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return." And the fact that this reality can still be somewhat frightening is why we take time today to reflect on the other element of being children of God. If we are all children of God, then that means that we are brothers and sisters to each other. We are united in a community that can face these challenges together. And today, the church reminds us that that community is not limited to those of us here on earth, that there are already members of our community who have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb and stand before the throne of God. That great multitude in Revelation is already gathering, and we are especially blessed to know many of them by name. These saints importantly provide an incredible example and inspiration to all of us. We can look to Monica's long struggle to convert her son Augustine. We hear about Paul's labors attempting to atone for the evil that he did while he was Saul. We are inspired by the joy of John Paul II, and especially the courage of all the martyrs. But there is more to this feast than simply remembering the example of the saints. St. Bernard writes about the importance of this day, and I'd like to end with his thoughts. He says, "Calling the saints to mind inspires, or rather arouses in us above all else, a longing to enjoy their company, so desirable in itself. We long to share in the citizenship of heaven, to dwell with the spirits of the blessed, to join the assembly of the patriarchs, the ranks of the prophets, the council of apostles, the great host of martyrs, the noble company of confessors, and the choir of virgins. In short, we long to be united in happiness with all the saints. But our dispositions change. The church of all the first followers of Christ awaits us, but we do nothing about it. The saints want us to be with them, and we are indifferent. The souls of the just await us, and we ignore them. Come, brethren, let us at length spur ourselves on. We must rise again with Christ. We must seek the world which is above and set our mind on the things of heaven. Let us long for those who are longing for us, hasten to those who are waiting for us, and ask those who look for our coming to intercede for us. Therefore, we should aim at attaining this glory with a wholehearted and prudent desire, that we may rightly hope and strive for such blessedness. And we must, above all, seek the prayers of the saints. Thus, what is beyond our own powers to attain, we will be granted through their intercession. All you holy saints of God, pray for us.